What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here. Today I'm bringing you a guide on how to use Grafaiai in competitive Pokemon. So if you guys are excited for this video, then make sure to leave a like on the video and help us reach our like goal of 100 likes. Comment which Pokemon you want to see next and your thoughts on Grafaiai down in the comments below. And of course, subscribe to the channel to help us reach our end of year goal of 3,000 subscribers. We are getting super close to do it, and we have about a month left. So I know we can get there, guys, with your support. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off with Grafaiai's stats, its distribution is a little lackluster. It's got 63 base HP with 95 attack, 65 defense, 80 special attack, 72 special defense, and 110 speed for a total of 485. Now, honestly, is this impressive? No, it's not. It's really got one above average stat, and that's going to be its speed stat, which at 110 is very good. But other than that, its defensive stats are not at all impressive. The combination of 63 HP, 65 defense, 72 special defense is not enough to take hits from enough Pokemon. And with this attack stat being only 95, you really have to make sure you get up like a Swords Dance before you're able to start doing a lot of work with this Pokemon. And I'll be honest, with this 80 special attack, you're probably not going to be using this as a special attacker. Its typing, however, is pretty good. It's the first poison and normal typing, at least that I can remember right now. It has two weaknesses, to psychic and to ground. And with its resistances, it has access to resistances to poison, fairy, grass, and bug, and an immunity to ghost. Having more immunities to ghost is a good thing, especially with Pursuit being gone or cut from last generation. So having an immunity is really nice. And of course, a grounded poison type to pick up T-Spikes for you is also very advantageous. Is the typing really crazy? Not necessarily. It's pretty bad offensively, and defensively it only has the four resistances and the immunity, I should say. But at the end of the day, it's going to get the job done. And that's the main thing here. Does this Pokemon get the job done? We're not always going to be dealing with Pokemon that are absolutely crazy, like Pokemon like Iron Valiant or Roaring Moon. So sometimes we have Pokemon that are a little bit lackluster, and this is the Pokemon that we're talking about today. Onto its abilities, it has three really good ones, starting off with Unburden. This ability is really solid because if you're in a situation where you lose your item, let's say you get either knocked off or you're able to consume your item, then Unburden will activate and it will double your speed. It's not a stat modifier where it's like a +2 boost, which is the same thing as doubling your speed. It's just a multiplier. So if you have, let's say, 100 in your speed stat, and then you get the +2, or the multiplier boost rather, from Unburden, you go to 200 base speed. So it's really different considering that if there are webs up, it's not just as straightforward as going to +2 and then -1, so you're at +1 overall. It's not the same, okay? In general, it's a good ability to have. Not the best on a Pokemon like Grafaiai, but I can definitely see the appeal. The next ability it has is Poison Touch. This, I think, is actually going to be the best or the second best ability on this Pokemon. And you're going to see why in some of the sets I discussed later. I want to give a big shout out to my friend Addison, Aquarius, for her help with discussing this with me. And it was a really important set to touch on, so we're going to cover that later. But basically, any of its contact moves have a 30% chance to poison the target. And that's really valuable, especially on a Pokemon that has access to U-Turn and Super Fang. And then finally, the last ability is Prankster. This one, it's either this or the Poison Touch that'll be the best ability. I think for singles, it'll be Poison Touch. For doubles, it'll be Prankster. Prankster gives your non-attacking moves, your status moves, access to priority. So Parting Shot, for example, gets priority. Something like Trick or Switcheroo, priority. All those things have a lot of value. In terms of its move pool, it has its signature move, which is going to be Doodle, which just copies the target's ability. Honestly, is that going to be that impressive? Not necessarily in singles, but I see the appeal for it in doubles. If you want to copy like an Intimidate and then you can intimidate your opponent, it can be very useful. It has access to U-Turn for momentum, which is really valuable in a lot of situations, as well as Taunt to shut down a lot of setup options. Let's say hazard removal in the form of Defog. It also can shut down setup, which is really important as well. And the fact that it's so fast really enables it to get the fast Taunt off before your opponent can do anything. And if you're running Prankster, you don't even have to worry about it. You just Prankster taunt things and you're good to go. Just be careful about Prankster taunting against Dark types because they will be unaffected. It also has Switcheroo, which can be really good for like Lagging Tail sets, really solid situations there. Knockoff, really great move to have, a good utility move overall on a Pokemon like Grafaiai. It has Super Fang, one of the best moves to have on this Pokemon, doing the 50%, and then also having the chance to poison as well is so valuable. Parting Shot also for momentum is really useful, as well as Gunk Shot for big damage on the poison side. Toxic, one of the few Pokemon that gets Toxic this generation, is really useful. Swords Dance for the attack boost in the Unburdened sets can be very useful. Acrobatics, again, very strong on potential Unburdened sets. Foul Play could be good if you're running more of a support variant and you want something to hit hard. This is a way to hit decently hard. And then Encore as well. We all know and love, or know and hate, I should say, Encore Whimsicott. As for some of its teammates, there are a couple of options I have over here, starting off with the first one, which is going to be the Indeedee. The reason why we have Indeedee here is because it is there for the terrain, so we can help pop the Unburden with something like the Psychic Seed. It's able also to wear down opposing steals, and Grafaiai really appreciates that. Obviously, the steals are going to come in on the Indeedee because that is a pretty big threat. You wear them down, and then Grafaiai gets the +2 and should be able to do a lot of work with like a +2 knockoff. That's obviously a really big advantage. Then we have basically anything that appreciates the parting shot support, something that can set up and sweep. And I personally think a great one is going to be Haxorus. I think overall Haxorus provides an amazing Dragon Dance breaker, which is really underrated. And overall, people are not going to be able to support their teams in a way to prep for everything in the metagame and the Haxorus. So I do think that Haxorus makes a lot of sense here, but honestly, any Dragon Dance sweeper works. Baxcalibur works as well. Then we have Skeledirge, the fire starter from this generation. It's a bulky fire type that can handle and beat steals and ghost types for Grafaiai, which is really, really nice. I do think that's a big advantage that this Pokemon has over other counterparts, and I do think it's a bit better than something like Ceruledge, even though they share the same typing because of the bulk that this Pokemon has. Then we have Annihilate. Annihilate is a great offensive typing of Ghost and Fighting overall, and it handles the checks that Grafaiai, or it checks Pokemon that Grafaiai needs checked really, really well. Grafaiai is weak to a couple of types in Ground and Psychic, and this Pokemon is able to decimate the Psychic type Pokemon, which is really nice, and is able to do decent work against the Ground types, especially with the Taunt bulk upset. Then we have Quackavoll here, which is really good because it really appreciates the chip that Grafaiai provides, and so it can easily get to +1 boost with the Moxie, while also getting a +1 boost with its Aqua Step attack to gain its +1 boost in attack and speed like a mini little Dragon Dance. Really valuable there. And for the same reason, Dragapult really appreciates the chip and the support that Grafaiai has, as well as finally Corviknight. The main reason why I have Corviknight here though is because they form a nice U-turn core. They can also just pivot in and take each other's hits really effectively. I do like this combination a lot. At the end of the day, Corviknight's going to pair really well with a lot of Pokemon in the metagame right now, and I think Grafaiai is just absolutely one of them. Now let's talk about some of the best Terra types for this Pokemon. Overall, there are a lot of options that this thing can run, but I'm going to cut it down to 3 of them. And I think the best one for me is going to be the normal Terra type. Why? Well, the fact that you're able to boost up any of your normal type attacks is really valuable, and Terra Blast normal is pretty strong in general, especially when you're getting the stab bonus and the extra stab bonus on top of that. It is really good, and it procs your normal gem. Also very valuable on Unburden sets. I think that Terra Flying makes a lot of sense as well because this Pokemon does get acrobatics, which is really useful, and at the same time, it gets access to an immunity to ground, which is really good because that's one of the Pokemon's weaknesses. And in the same vein, I think Terra Dark makes a lot of sense, so you can boost your knockoffs and your foul plays, but at the same time, you get that immunity to Psychic, so very valuable there as well. Moving on to some items here for this Pokemon, I think Heavy Duty Boots is the best item to run because you're going to be coming in and out a lot with this Pokemon. The fact that you don't have to worry about taking hazards when you're on entry is very valuable for a Pokemon that doesn't have any recovery. Then we have the Focus Sash. This is mostly for doubles in my mind because if you're getting targeted, you want to make sure you take at least the hit, then get the knockoff on something or get a nice taunt off on something else and be able to just wear down your opponent's team. That's what the Focus Sash is there for, so you can survive long enough to put in the work you really need to. Then we have the Black Sludge. Black Sludge is there for a bit of recovery. This Pokemon doesn't get any recovery options, so having Black Sludge for a little bit of extra health every turn can be very useful. We then have a Mental Herb, which is going to be used to avoid you being taunted or encored. Very valuable against opposing Grafaiais or against opposing Pokemon that have taunt. Something like, I'd say, a Grimmsnarl could work really effectively. So you want to make sure that you're able to get off your attacks before the Grimmsnarl can get theirs off. Obviously, be careful because you're going to be Prankster taunting or Prankster encoring or whatever a Dark type that won't work, so you have to run Unburden or Poison Touch to get that job done. And the last item I have here is going to be the normal gem. This is really good for an offensive set that's running the Unburden ability. A very strong set. I'm going to cover that very shortly. Moving on to some movesets here, we have my absolute favorite set here after speaking with my friend Addison. I mentioned her before. She is a great content creator. Her link will be in the description. Honestly, the set here that we're talking about is a Black Sludge set with Poison Touch, and we are running the Terra type being Flying here. I do think that this Terra type is really valuable for a Pokemon like this because of the immunity to ground that it provides, but the main advantages to it is the Poison Touch with the combination of Knockoff, U-Turn, and Super Fang. All is very valuable because if we can go for a Super Fang and get something to take, let's say 50% HP, let's say it's a Great Tusk that comes in, you get 50% off on that Pokemon, which is amazing. You potentially get a poison off on it, and then you go for your Terra type into a Terra type Flying. You're now immune to the Earthquake. You can get a knockoff on that thing, a U-turn, whatever the case might be. You can taunt it from getting up rocks or whatever the case might be. You have a lot of different options. Let's say something that's bulkier with recovery. You can taunt them so they can't recover up as well. I like that a lot. Then we have a normal gem set with the Unburden. This is running max attack this time, Adamant Nature, Gunk Shot, Swords Dance, Terra Blast, and Low Kick with the normal Terra type. This is so that we can go for a Terra Blast on the normal side and get our normal gem boost. Super valuable, and at the same time we get the boost from the Terra type 2 times. Then we have a heavy duty boot set here with knockoff, parting shot, taunt, and toxic, more of a pivoting set here with max HP and max speed. We're running prankster on this set here. That's the best ability to run on this particular set. We're trying to just stay around, parting shot away, taunt things, get a toxic on a couple of Pokemon that are really annoying. That's the main advantage. We then have another prankster set with the lagging tail. Lagging tail is there because we want to be able to switcheroo, not trick things, switcheroo things and slow them down for the rest of our team. Could be useful in certain scenarios. And we have a double set here with the focus sash. We're running the Jolly Nature with knockoff, parting shot, taunt, and we have Doodle this time, just in case we think that Intimidate is going to be making a big appearance in the metagame. Doodle could have a lot of utility. Moving on now to some predictions for this Pokemon. I think this Pokemon in the Smogon tiers will end up being RU. This is actually the lowest Pokemon I have ranked so far, but that doesn't mean it's a bad Pokemon. I just think that compared to everything else in the metagame, it is really not as good. That's the problem. We just have a really power crept metagame right now, and a Pokemon like Grafaiai is going to fall through the cracks. It is what it is. It has amazing speed at base 110, but it's likely going to need a lot of support from your teammates to put in as much work as you want it to in terms of an offensive breaker or sweeper. But what is really going to do well is going to be clicking the U-turn, the Super Fang, the knockoffs with the Poison Touch, and that's going to be probably support for the rest of your roster. Then for VGC, what do we think about this Pokemon for VGC? You know, most of the time I think that Pokemon in VGC are not going to be as good as they are in singles. I think it's the opposite. I think that in VGC, Grafaiai will actually be better than in singles. Its support with Prankster is really, really useful, and Doodle could definitely have its utility. And I really wish it got screens, but it doesn't. And either way, it works really well without screens, and I do think that it will have a lot of utility in the VGC metagame. Not as much as other Pokemon, but I do think it is still better than in singles nonetheless. And then moving on to Draft League, this is my specialty here, and on a 17 to 18 point scale, I believe this Pokemon is going to be around the 6 to 8 point mark. And the reason for that is because it honestly doesn't do too much outside of the few sets that I mentioned there, and that's the issue. And honestly, does it do them that well? It does some of them well, just not to the level that you really need them to do. I think as a support Pokemon, it makes a lot of sense, but is it going to be the backbone of your team? Definitely not, and that's obviously a problem here, but I do see that it can be placed higher up in drafts because of the performance of 1 or 2 players, showing that it has a lot of utility in the format. And that's all I've got for you guys today on Grafaiai. If you guys enjoyed the video, then make sure to leave a like on the video to help us reach our like goal of 100 likes. Be sure to comment your thoughts on the Pokemon down below, as well as give me suggestions for which Pokemon I should cover next. And of course, guys, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers, and we can't get there without your support. We're about, what, 80% of people who are watching this are not subscribed, so if you guys sub, that'd be really appreciated. Also, I'm going to do something a bit different right now. I'm going to have a poll down in the description of this video, not for tomorrow's video, maybe not even for Friday's video, but probably for Saturday. We're going to be either discussing the Great Tusk and Iron Treads, or we're going to start talking about the big 4 legendaries of this generation: the Tinglu, the Woshen, the Chenpao, and the Chi-Yu is the last one, I believe. So let me know, which Pokemon do you want me to cover first? Is it going to be the Donphan forms or those Dark legendaries? Let me know down in the comments and by voting in the poll in the comments as well. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our YouTube channel members as well. Their support is greatly appreciated. Our level 1s are going to be Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Texas Man. Our level 2 is Tone, and our level 3 is Sully. They went the extra mile by supporting the channel financially. If you want to do the same thing, click on the join button on the screen. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.